Look, ain't no beating around the bush, I finally got this set. This has been my white whale for so long, and with War of the Rohirrim out right now, I finally pulled the trigger. So today, I'll give you a rundown of the figures, the build, and then tell you whether this is the best Lord of the Rings set from the original theme. As I've mentioned, I've wanted this set for a long time. When it came out, I was much busier buying LEGO Star Wars and Ninjago, but I've grown to love this set more and more in the last years. So after selling a few of the sets from my admittedly way too big sealed collection, who knows, might make a video on that next year, I finally picked up the Battle of Helm's Deep. This video is pretty much just gonna be me nerding out for however long this video is, so sit back and enjoy. As I've mentioned, this set was part of the original Lord of the Rings wave all the way back in 2012. At a price point of $120 US, it was the second most expensive set of the original Lord of the Rings theme, only behind the Tower of Orthanc. If you adjust that price for inflation, it comes out to about $165 nowadays, which is pretty much on par with current flagship sets. With a piece count of 1,368 pieces, it's also one of the biggest OG Lord of the Rings sets, second to only the aforementioned Tower of Orthanc. As you might have noticed, that set is probably Helm's Deep's biggest rival for the title of best original Lord of the Rings set. In one aspect, this set already has the upper hand though, which is the amount of minifigs. The Tower of Orthanc came with only 5, this one comes with 8, so let's look at those right now. The 8 figures here are perfectly split in half. 4 good guys, 4 bad guys. In total, 3 of these are exclusive, so that's pretty good, and I think we have to start with the most desired one by LEGO fans among these. Theoden, King of Rohan, is one of the most desired figures from the whole Lord of the Rings theme. As mentioned, he is exclusive to the set, but this minifig also just looks breathtaking. We've got a fully printed armor piece along with a newly molded, fully printed helmet. The gold on brown makes for a great look, which is why I'm going to state my only problem with this figure right now. I think the arms should have been brown as well. The armor he wears in the movie does cover his arms as well, and while I expect no arm printing from a 12-year-old figure, brown arms would have benefited the overall look most definitely. Everything else is amazing though, from the chainmail on his legs to the beautiful chest piece, showcasing the iconic Rohirrim horses, to the incredible helmet, into which you can tell the designer puts so much love and care. If we remove the helmet, we get a better glimpse at Bernard Hill's expression, which they managed to match perfectly in my opinion, and the alternative, happier one, is really good too. But since that's not already dope enough, you also get a fully printed shield with the classic Rohan pattern. Next up is Haldir, a character that came to the aid of Rohan in the movies, but didn't actually fight in the Battle of Helm's Deep in the books. Better for him probably. But honestly, this figure is dope. Not just that the red and gold work really well together, it's also just a color scheme we don't tend to see very often when it comes to elven characters. The legs are already really well printed, and I don't even know whether the camera is picking it up, but there is actually some petal detailing on his golden ropes under the armor. It's nearly impossible to see, but it's such a cool detail when you look closer. I don't even know what to say about the torso other than that it's gorgeous. The lighter pattern on the golden chest piece is brilliant, and to me at least, it leaves nothing to be desired. The head also matches the overall elven aesthetic, even though it may not be 100% in line with Craig Parker's actual look. Next up, we've got the rightful King of Gondor himself, even though he might look a little disheveled, Aragorn. Now, technically, this outfit doesn't really match the scene in Helm's Deep. This is his Strider outfit and not his battle suit featuring chainmail and such. I gotta give it to the figure though, he still looks great. We've got some hip printing that transitions his leg printing onto the torso, and that piece is also just super detailed. Even such minor details like the sewings are included, but the best part of course is the necklace he got from Arwen. The silver is super eye-catching, even if it is printed over a way too dark skin tone. It doesn't match his head at all, but that is LEGO for you. Of course, the head is great as well, and I particularly like the stubble. His alternative, aggressive face matches his look in the Battle of Helm's Deep quite well too, and even though it may be inaccurate, it's just an overall good figure. As the last, but not least of the good guys, we've got Gimli. I think of all the figure, this one has probably aged the worst, mostly because the 2023 version is such an upgrade. For the time, short legs were the best choice, I can't complain about that one bit, but I absolutely do not agree with dark red being the base color of his torso. I think it throws off the otherwise brown and grey color scheme and adds this odd extra element to it, which just doesn't work at all. But the beard and helmet are gorgeous. Not just is the beard very detailed, it also wraps around to the back, providing us with another braid to keep the back from being too plain. And the helmet, what can I say, is simply lovely. The brown and bronze work together beautifully, even though the piece does cover most of his face. There's an alternative face as well, but with the helmet on, you'll be hardly able to spot a difference. As the most important of the bad guys, we've got the Uruk-Hai Beserker. In the movie, he obviously is the one throwing himself into the drain to blow up Helm's Deep's walls, which is why he's carrying a torch here as well. We are missing any leg printing, but in my opinion that's totally fine since he doesn't wear anything other than a loincloth in the scene, which is represented by the grey hip piece here. The torso is great, you don't just have plenty of printing depicting his anatomy, you've of course also got the white markings, most prominently the two white hands on his chest. The back is a lot less detailed, but the helmet is honestly pretty good. Maybe a molded piece would have worked better, but since it's such a tight-fitting helmet, I'm fine with it only being printed. On the front, we've got the exposed mouth and the white paint, and even the back gets a plate with some screws to keep it shut. Up next, we've got the first of the regular Uruk-Hai. The leg printing is honestly flawless, and especially the transition onto the torso is brilliant. The ever so slight hip printing really brings the whole thing together, which is only complemented by the fact that the torso printing is fantastic as well. The bits of silver in the middle of the torso break up the brown monotony that would have dominated this figure otherwise. There's even more detailing on the back, and of course, the helmet is beautiful. It leaves space for the menacing mouth and eyes while incorporating all the other important details of the iconic design. Even better are the armored Uruk-Hai though, of which you get two in this set. While yes, the chest plate hides all of the incredible printing of the torso, it gives this figure the much needed physicality that Uruk-Hai typically have. In Lord of the Rings, Uruk-Hai are basically the stronger orcs, so giving them these extra armor pieces to not just make them wider, but also taller is a fantastic idea in my opinion. So overall, all these figures are great, and getting a balance of good and bad guys makes the set even more appealing for children, since the Hornburg, as great of a display model it may be, is fundamentally still a playset. Now, I'll say it straight up, this set looks beautiful. Despite being a licensed product, this feels like one of those old school castles from a LEGO original theme. It obviously cannot compare to something like the Lion Knight's castle, but this set shouldn't be considered small by any means. In the current constellation I've got it set up right now, with all the parts connected, this set measures 50 centimeters in length. That's already a lot, but with the ramp fully extended, it also comes out to 39 centimeters in depth, and thanks to the tower, it reaches 27 centimeters in height as well. As you'll see in a second, a lot of the floor space is empty, but the general height of the build is definitely the most impressive, with both the outer wall and keep being at least over 10 centimeters tall. So the build can be separated into three big sections, by which they are categorized in the instructions as well. The extended wall with the tower, the entire front section, including the gate, and the keep. The keep is the one part that can actually be separated from the rest, since the only connection is just really the bridge here, but I'd say we start with the gate and work our way through it from there. Let us start with the front and the ramp/bridge leading up to the gate. This is obviously way bigger in the movie, but I'm very impressed with it considering the smaller scale. The curve is very well done, and it does its best to allow you to recreate the cavalry charge happening shortly before Gandalf arrives with Éomer to save the day. The gate itself, through which the orcs break eventually, is really well built, opening fairly easily, but I want to highlight the amazing architecture around it. These towers around the entrance are constructed brilliantly, featuring the signature small windows for archers to use and a bunch of weathering to accurately depict the age of the Soothburg. Fun fact, originally it wasn't called either Hornburg or Helm's Deep. It only got its name after the transpiring of the events shown in the War of the Rohirrim. I won't spoil it here, but just a little tidbit for you. The interior of the outer wall sadly doesn't give us a whole lot to look at, but up here there's at least a little catapult. Now, after looking at the scene from the movie again, I wasn't actually able to see any catapults in Helm's Deep at all, let alone ones on the wall. If I missed any though, please tell me in the comments. What was important to include though is this little area in the corner down here. You might be able to see that there's a little door you can push outwards. This corridor leads you outside of the wall and onto this pedestal. By now everyone should understand that this is supposed to depict the scene of Aragorn and Gimli flanking the Uruk-Hai coming up the ramp. Since Gimli said, "Nobody tosses a dwarf," LEGO instead included a little catapult, yes, another one, to launch Gimli onto the bridge in front of the gate. Getting him to land on it is honestly the most difficult part of all of this, but getting the opportunity of recreating such an iconic scene is obviously great for any fan. Staying on the outside, the front area continues into nearly two identical curved walls to either side. As you can see, they are lifted a couple of bricks off the ground, and while they may not be the highlight of the build, they add so much to it. Not just by adding obvious mass to it, but also in really getting that look from the movie, that special feeling across. Just to show you why I didn't call it one of the highlights, the interior is non-existent, and I feel like this really shows how far LEGO has evolved in the last decade, since you just no longer see something like this on current LEGO sets. But since that wraps up the first part of the build, let's have a look at the second one, including the extended wall and the tower. The tower itself looks pretty good, let's start by saying that. I'm a big fan of the way they designed the exterior, using snot techniques to get these unique columns all the way up to the top. Sadly, the detailing here is made of stickies, but in combination with the almost destroyed looking top, it does very well in giving the signature weathered look. In the very top of the tower you've got enough space for one minifig, and while there isn't really any more interior detailing in here, you do get this really long ladder all the way down to the bottom. For someone displaying this set, it's totally unnecessary, but if you're a kid, I totally understand why this would be cool for you. And at the very bottom there's also just a crate. It is empty, but I guess a bit of extra detail is a bit of extra detail. Then there's this little area in front of the tower. On top of it you can easily place a few figures, since it also acts as the connection between the outer wall and the extended wall. And on the inside you've got more than enough space to put on a few minifigs, and again you may be able to spot a little brown part over here. This is a door again, which leads you into the area behind the extended wall, where the fighting takes place after the wall was blown up. Speaking of said wall, we're now looking at the extended wall with the ever so important drain at the bottom. Just at base level, the wall is really well built. You've got different colors, different textures and everything, which is why the only critique I have comes with this part's play feature. As you can see, the bricks don't align here at all, and the top is overall incredibly flimsy. This is all due to the play mechanism allowing you to blow up the whole wall. Now, I don't know whether it's just a problem with my version, but this feature doesn't work at all here. The wall bulges a little, but it doesn't break down at all, and frankly, that's just disappointing. What is cool about this part though are these two little holes right here. Now, without context, they do seem pretty random, but in the same year Helm's Deep was released, LEGO also put out the Uruk-Hai army. That set came with a bit of wall and can actually be added onto this already existing build to extend the wall even further. I tried to get the set as well for the review today, but sadly I couldn't find a good enough offer, so just imagine the wall here would extend even further. But that leaves us with the last part of the build, the keep. Technically this would just be the second wall of Helm's Deep, but LEGO decided to fuse the two into one, with which I actually have no problem. It's not accurate, but it's a playset after all. We'll start with the interior this time. It's nothing grandiose, let's be real here. We've got a nice throne for Theoden to sit on, with a weapon rack to either side and a large table in front of it. I think these two things here are supposed to be chairs. They do look a little odd, but it's the best guess I can make. The highlights are definitely the unique shape of the keep though, and the big Rohirrim banner waving above it all. It is sadly a stickered piece, but nonetheless it adds a lot to the room, since it would just mostly be grey otherwise. I already mentioned how impressed I am by how well they managed to achieve the round shape of the keep, and the outside is no different than that. On its own, this does look a little weird, especially with the flap just hanging down here, but this is actually the bridge connecting the keep to the outer wall. As you can see here, it just rests on the walkway for the minifigs, and this allows you to access both the inside of the wall and the keep easier, so it's nice that these two parts were separated. I was a little hesitant at the beginning, but I've really come around to appreciate it. And that's pretty much all there's to say about this whole set, so let's answer the question whether this is actually the best original Lord of the Rings set. Now, its only rival in this question is the Tower of Orthanc, and in my opinion, this one takes it. The Tower of Orthanc is an incredible set, but it's not as good of a playset as it is a display set. This set right here delivers on both fronts while simultaneously providing us with 8 amazing minifigs. If you just worked out some of the inside, this could absolutely release nowadays as one of the summer flagship sets, since it already retailed for the same price anyways. There's another amazing Lord of the Rings set from the original wave though, being the Pirate Ship Ambush. If you want to see me review that set, click the video right here, or have a look at this playlist in which I only talk about Lord of the Rings. However though, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and until next time, goodbye.